Signs of a confident fighter.
Get him up, get him up.
Mickey Ben's had so many roadblocks throughout his career.
I was going to say, Stephen, you're the one who told us too. He hasn't really lived up to his potential, beginning to showcase that potential now. But got stuck. He got stuck with that left hook by Molina. Molina has hurt Mickey Bay in the 10th round. I was just going to say, it looks like Bay has lived up to his potential, but never count out John Molina. Oh, and Bay, how is he still standing? Right hand by Molina. And the referee has stopped the fight. Mamma mia! Unbelievable turn of events here in Vegas.
Wow.
How's it going, everybody? My beautiful boxing family. Happy Monday, October 5th. It's that time again. What a classic. Zepeda, Baranchak. It's Mayhem in the Morning with your boy AJ Rage. Let's get this thing going.
Open up the gates, welcome to Mayhem.
Good morning, everybody. My beautiful boxing family. It's Mayhem in the Morning with your boy AJ Rage. It's a beautiful Monday, October 5th. I got to tell you, this fight over the weekend, I agree with Tim Bradley 150%. 2 times on top of that. Probably one of the best fights I've ever seen. And to think that it wasn't even a pay-per-view. Congratulations to Jose Chon Zepeda. I said it going into this fight. I felt that Zepeda needed to not only win this fight, but he had to make a statement. And boy, did Zepeda make a statement. And also, in a good part, I'm happy to see that reports have it, and I saw a thing that was put out by Top Rank that Baranchak is doing better after that devastating one-punch knockout by Jose Zepeda. The fight was everything it was going to live up to be. We knew Baranchak, who's the Beast, lived up to his nickname. He came out like a monster. And for a little while there in the first round, it looked a little questionable for Jose, but I got to tell you, even though Zepeda was legitimately knocked down, I would say 3 times, not really 4. The one wasn't a knockdown. Jose was never really hurt. There was one that it was kind of questionable. You might have been a little bit, but nowhere were the punches as effective. Even though the punches look so much harder coming from Baranchak, Zepeda packed such a punch. People forget that this man, he just registered his 26th knockout and 32 victories. He's got the second highest knockout ratio in the division at 140. Not to mention, he's already proven that he's been in there with Ramirez, who some people look at between him and Josh Taylor are the cream of the crop of the division. A lot of people scored it for Zepeda. I scored it for Zepeda. Josh Taylor, I went back and watched Josh Taylor's fight against Baranchak. Baranchak had a much more successful evening against Josh Taylor. I mean, Taylor won the fight, but if Taylor, I look at the way Taylor fights, and he did a lot of holding, a little bit of dirty tactics. It's not going to work against Zepeda. Zepeda's a masterful boxer. And one of the things that I really got out of the fight that I was so happy to hear coming out of Chon's mouth was the fact that hopefully he's not going to question himself anymore. I know it's a tactic that's been a part of him for a long time, but it's really hard to understand how a fighter with such talent, and I know he falls back on his lack of amateur experience, but Jose Chon Zepeda is an amazing fighter. He's a natural in so many ways. He's a rarity that you see in boxing today, a pure combination between a boxer and a puncher. You know, he made a few mistakes, but I was talking to my brother Mike and my co-host from Enter the Ring Live, and one of the things that I noticed was that Zepeda, you know, he kind of, his defense wasn't as tight, and he wasn't really using his jab. But I really think Zepeda came in here knowing that Baranchak was going to be a strong fighter. And I think Zepeda, like I said, he wanted to make a statement, and he wanted to prove that he could stand in there and fight toe-to-toe with a guy who's called the Beast. And I really love the fact that the world's starting to look at it and say, hey, for the people that didn't know who Jose Zepeda is, they know now. For the people that did know who Jose Zepeda is, hopefully their eyes are open to this is the guy. And I agree with Tim Bradley 100% that Chon Zepeda will be a world champion soon. Whether it's a bout against Ramirez or against Josh Taylor, he's going to win the title. It's going to be really, really hard to beat this guy at this time. I think he's at the top of his game right now. And that power, wow. I mean, like I said, Baranchyk is not, he's just not some Johnny-come-lately. This is a guy who, invoked himself on the division, kind of tore through it. And it was a question mark in that bout in the Super 6 with Taylor, whether or not Taylor was going to win this fight. Baranchyk was in the fight the whole time. I know he got dropped twice in the 6, but he was never really hurt. It was, but the thing is that against Zepeda, even though, Baranchyk, just to show you the heart, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Ivan Baranchyk for just showing the kind of fighter that he is. I mean, this is a guy who got dropped. That knockdown from that Chon dropped him, most guys wouldn't have got up from that. Baranchyk got up from that, comes back and drops Zepeda. And I don't think really it was so much as Zepeda was getting hurt from those punches. It was just the power and the velocity of him, the fierceness. It just kind of threw him across the ring. Because like I said, Baranchyk is just a physical specimen. And it just really, really shows you the type of fighter that Zepeda is. He's very resilient. I mean, the guy just... it was almost kind of like that scene from Rocky versus Drago where Drago would knock Rocky down and Rocky would get up and Drago just kind of looks back at his corner and is like, he's not human. It's like, how is this guy doing this? And it's because, Zepeda is a rare breed. So, that punch, like I said, I mean, I've seen fighters knocked unconscious, but this was a scary This had its scary moments, and I give a lot of credit to Zepeda too. And once again, I'm gonna emphasize on this. When you talk about fighters today who are coming up through the ranks, and you show and you put a lot of gloss on guys like Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and some of these other guys that are very disrespectful to the opponents in which they face, it's a credit when you see a fighter with such class like Jose Chon Zepeda. I mean, once he knew he won the fight, I mean, his concerns weren't, declare me the winner so I can go off and party. His concerns were with the well-being of his opponent, Ivan Baranchyk. And the thing was, it was like, I thought it was kind of cool too that I read that, Chon had to go in and get tested, and obviously they got to do an overnight observation on him, because it was a big fight. These guys were bombing on each other, and they were both in the same room, I guess, and one bed apart. And the thing was, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, what kind of conversation were they having? Was it like that scene from Rocky and from Rocky when Apollo Creed and Rocky are talking to each other, and Rocky's asking him, did you give me your best? And it's like, they were probably sitting here, reminiscing about the fight a little bit, because I mean, like I said, even in defeat, Baranchyk is still relevant in the division. He didn't lose. He lost to probably the best, I'm going to say no, not probably, the best 140-pounder right now in the world. So, like I said, this sets up an interesting matchup later on. I know there's really been no talk from Top Rank or from anything about a Ramirez. It seems like, a Ramirez versus Chon Zepeda rematch. I don't think Ramirez wants that fight. I think Ramirez knows he can avoid Chon if Chon would have had that lower profile. But Chon scoring this devastating knockout, and there's memes going out everywhere. I mean, and it's all over social media. It's really hard to put, a shadow over that victory because you can't. So if Ramirez is successful, if him and Josh Taylor do unify that title, he's going to have to face Zepeda. He's not going to be able to go and say, well, I'm going to face this guy. No. I think the fans are gonna ask for it. They're gonna want it. They're gonna demand it from Top Rank. And Bob Arum's pretty good about matching his best against the best. I think Bob Arum was probably the first person to probably sit back once this knockout happened, because Zepeda, and look back and go, wow, we need to make this thing happen, because I mean it's a great opportunity there. But we'll see, you know what I'm saying? So now as far as with Josh Taylor, watching Josh Taylor's fight against, I actually went back and watched his fight against his victory over Regis Prograis. And I gotta say, man, Taylor used a lot of dirty tactics in that fight. He held a lot, didn't get one warning from the referee at all in the entire fight. I mean, every time Regis seemed like he was starting to get, a burst of offense going against that was successful against Taylor would just grab him and, this octopus tactic, and no warning from the referee whatsoever. He was using elbows, the top of his head, but his face was worse for the wear. As I mean, Prograis was doing what he did. It was a very close fight. It could have went Regis's way, but it went Taylor's way. I had Taylor. I had it a draw, maybe slightly favored towards Taylor on my scorecard, but there were some rounds that were very questionable. Taylor's definitely not the puncher that Chon Zepeda is, and I even look at his overall boxing skills. Taylor's kind of a big guy for the division. He's a little slick. He's got a little bit of cutie tactics, but for the most part, he's not going to be able to get away with that. Keeping his hands down real low against a guy like Zepeda. And people are going to say, well, Zepeda got hit, from Branchak. Well, Branchak hit Taylor too. And the thing is, if Taylor gets hit by the wild-winging punches that Branchak was hitting him with and was getting hurt, he's going to sleep when he gets hit by those pinpoint punches that are going to come from Zepeda. So with that said, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be I just look at big things going to happen with Chon Zepeda, and I'm so happy because my brother knows him really well personally, him and his brother Rene, and he tells me, the guy's just a very genuine. I mean, if you want to look up to a fighter today in boxing, look up to Jose Chon Zepeda. The guy's an amazing fighter. He's had great training. He works with his brother Rene, but he also has worked for several years with the great Robert Alcazar. So, I mean, the thing is that, here's the future right here at the 140 division. So with that said, everybody have a wonderful rest of your Monday and stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to try to get an ring going today. If we don't have any more issues, goddamn YouTube, what are you going to do? But it is what it is and stuff. So once again, this is Mayhem in the Morning with your boy AJ Rage. And one more time, congratulations to Jose Chon Zepeda for a total classic.
Open up the gates, welcome to me.